Beware the attack of the giant woodpecker!
Calm down. It's not that exciting. It is interesting though, and you gotta see this.
Okay, he's not that bad. Well, in fact, he's been a great neighbor here in Peoria Heights for years and years and years.
And we'll tell you all about the woodpecker in just a moment as we go into our series of iconic Peoria.
And if that sounds familiar, maybe you've been watching Iconic America. That's the PBS series about landmarks and icons across the nation, like the Statue of Liberty and the Golden Gate Bridge and other things you know a lot about, but they dive deeply into.
We went ahead and we asked viewers what they thought were the iconic spots in Peoria. We've done 5 already. Are you ready for the next 5?
Oh, I'm ready.
Let's go.
Peoria's always been known as an entertainment city, and the biggest luminary in that arena is, of course, Richard Pryor. And he was not just a comedian, but a social critic, and he just had so much power in what he had to say, he just grabbed the world. There was no bigger star than he in the 1970s. We're here on the South End, and here is Richard Pryor Place. Now, there are plenty of honorary streets for some of Peoria's entertainment luminaries, but none that are a renamed street, which Pryor got a few years back. Now, he didn't grow up right here. He grew up on the near north side, sort of where I-74 goes through downtown, but he did spend a lot of time at the Carver Center, which is just down the road and along Richard Pryor Place. That's where he first learned how to be an entertainer, where he realized, hey, I can make people laugh. Maybe this is something I can do. Maybe this is something I can do that's bigger than Peoria. And indeed, he became really big. Pryor's was known for his stand-up, for his movies, and here in Peoria, well, we just like to remember him here on Richard Pryor Place as one of our favorite sons.
Did you know that Peoria was a hot spot for gargoyles? Well, we did. Well, actually, technically, if they spit water, they're a gargoyle, and if they don't, they're called a grotesque. But we call them gargoyles here. We have some famous ones right here behind me. We have at the Bradley University, Bradley Hall, guarding all the students. And then we have, of course, at the Hayden Clark Alumni Center. And let's not forget about Kaboom, who is their mascot, who is a gargoyle. We also have gargoyles that protect our main water supply. Illinois American Water has its main pump house that has 4 gargoyles on each side of the top of the building. They're supposed to ward off evil spirits, so I think it's a good idea we keep these gargoyles around.
So here we are smack dab in the middle of Peoria at the Glen Oak Park Bandshell, which in one form or another has been here since the late 19th century.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of civic-minded activities going on here, fireworks displays, very small concerts, but at one time, there were big concerts.
That's the part that blows me away. If we had a time machine, I'd love to come here into the mid-70s when promoter Jay Goldberg started doing rock shows here. And it would seem like, how do you do a rock show here? That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I'm sure he had to truck in a lot of equipment, but thousands and thousands of people would attend the concerts, the most famous one probably being Fleetwood Mac.
Right when they were hitting big and they showed up here, they had thousands of people here, 7,000, 8,000, something like that. And then the next year, that was in 76 and 77, the Beach Boys show up, 10,000 people here and outside the park, and that was kind of the problem. It's a lot of people to put here, had a lot of noise complaints, and after that, yeah, the Civic Center came and Jay Goldberg got sick of the tickets and whatnot for noise. So, but it is kind of cool just to remember, wow, what this place was rock-wise.
You can see Stevie Nicks spinning around right now. Traveling through Peoria, you can see a lot of works by Frederick J. Klein, a famous architect and designer. But the most unique may be right here in Lower Bradley Park. It's the Japanese Bridge. Klein was born in Detroit but raised in Peoria. He's designed the Madison Theater and the Apollo Theater. He also helped develop Grandview Drive and designed several homes there. He also helped develop and lay out sections of Glen Oak Park, while the beautiful doors of the Springdale Cemetery Mausoleum were also designed by him. But this footbridge, the Japanese bridge, which goes over Dry Run Creek, was built for $5,500 in 1922. The decorative open railing along with the decorative portal reflect Japanese-style architecture.
We're here at Peoria Heights Observation Water Tower. Well, the best view may not be from up top, it may be actually from down here, because what you can see there is a very interesting creature that we have here in central Illinois. It is a 300-pound, 6-foot-tall woodpecker. And you might think, that seems odd. Do we have a lot of woodpeckers around here? It was built in 1968, and then philanthropist Bill Rutherford decided, you know what, it needs a little extra decoration, and he brought this wooden woodpecker all the way from Canada to display here on the water tower. It may not be the most famous woodpecker, but it is Central Illinois' most famous bird.
That actually was a lot of fun, and if you've missed the first 5 iconic Peoria spots, there's a way you can catch up. Go to WTVP.org and watch those online.
And make sure you come back in a couple weeks for the rest of Iconic Peoria.
This summer, the Riverfront Museum has a very special exhibit called Body Worlds, and it takes an in-depth look at what's going on underneath your skin, like deep, deep, deep under your skin.
Now keep in mind, these aren't models, these are real. How's that done? We're going to go behind the scenes to show you this unique process.
And we just need to warn you a little bit that it's not for the squeamish or faint of heart.
Yeah, it's real science, but it's also going to give you the greatest glimpse you might ever get of what's going on under your skin. At the Peoria Riverfront Museum, you can get a remarkable look inside the human body. Body Worlds RX is the world's most popular touring exhibition, viewed by more than 50 million people worldwide. The unique draw? The exhibit features real human specimens.
Actually have specimen that will show the heart, the lungs, everything from bone, skeletal system, all the way to the muscular system, and they really get to see firsthand how your body works.
For many visitors, it's an eye-opening experience.
I think they are really kind of shocked, not in a morbid, gruesome way, but more of like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this is how my body worked and what it actually looks like.
Worldwide, different Body Worlds exhibits spotlight different themes. At the Riverfront Museum, Body Worlds RX focuses on human health, showing the striking differences between healthy bodies and those stricken with disease. The specimens emphasize common ailments such as back pain, arthritis, cancer, dementia, and cardiovascular diseases. For some visitors, the exhibit inspires a desire to get healthier.
I think they really do take into consideration, my health and really think about, is there a way that I can now change by seeing, how this exhibit is displayed.
Beyond the remarkable insight into the human body, visitors often are impressed by the presentation itself.
They do ask how it is done. It's called from a process called plastinization. It's an actual full body specimen, I should say, that was donated to this program, and then they are plasticized.
Plastination was invented in 1977 by the German doctor Gunther von Hagens. The idea? Replace a human body's biological fluid with a plastic polymer which can be hardened. That way, specimens are odorless and safe and virtually unperishable. The process, which has 4 steps, can take as long as 1,500 hours. It starts after donors contribute their bodies. The first step is preparation. To halt decay, formaldehyde is pumped through the arterial system. Arteries are filled in 3 to 4 hours, after which bacteria are destroyed. This first step also involves anatomical dissection. Removed are skin and connective tissues. Patience is required, as this step can take 800 hours. The next step involves dehydration and defatting, which can take 3 to 4 months. In dehydration, the specimen is placed in a solvent, acetone, chilled to minus 13 degrees Fahrenheit. The process, which is repeated multiple times, pushes water from the specimen. Next, in defatting, the acetone is warmed to room temperature and the fat is dissolved. The next step is called force impregnation, which lasts 6 to 8 weeks. The specimen is submerged in a bath of liquid silicone. Inside a vacuum chamber, acetone is forced out of the specimen while silicone is forced into every cranny. When the acetone bubbles stop rising, the process is over. The specimen is then allowed to drip dry. The fourth and last step, curing, can last a few weeks to several months depending on the intended pose. The specimen is placed in the desired position using needles, wires, and staples. It's then surrounded by an airtight chamber, and a curing gas is pumped in for permanent hardening. After this step, the specimen, or plastinate, is forever protected from decay.
I had such a good time getting to know the gentleman in our next story. He has enthusiasm that is infectious, and he took his enthusiasm and took it behind the wheel of a monster truck.
The ride wasn't just fun, it was groundbreaking.
Well, he is the first Black autistic man to ever drive a monster truck.
Come along for this ride of a lifetime.
Meet 24-year-old Marcus Jackson. He works for Peoria Production Solutions, enjoys bowling, supporting his church, and attending monster truck events around Central Illinois. But today, he takes the driver's seat as a history maker, a record breaker, and he doesn't let obstacles get in his way.
We're kind of making history today. Me being the first ever Black 24-year-old autistic man to drive a 12,000-pound monster truck from an auction item from Best Buddies is awesome to me.
Through the Best Buddies organization, Marcus is living out a lifelong dream of being behind the wheel of a monster truck.
Marcus is like the best face for this. He has so much energy. He can talk about his dreams, his passion, his excitement all day. And he works closely with one of our program managers, Lenata Cunningham, to put together his speeches and all of his kind of presentations. But he does an absolutely great job. And I think that just goes to show what our participants are also capable of.
It's an official. I'm on board to go overboard.
Thanks to the owner and driver of the Overboard monster truck, Jamie Garner, Marcus is learning the ropes.
I'm gonna start it for you anyway.
Watch your ears, guys.
So fuel's on, ignition's on. All you do is flip this up. Accumulator dumps the oil. You watch your oil pressure go up.
With a smile lighting up his face, Marcus is suited up, strapped in, and ready to attempt his first wheelie.
Let's hear it for Marcus J. One more time, make some noise!
Hearing the roars of the engine would just build the adrenaline rush. But just seeing the drivers interact with the fans before and after the shows is just awesome to me.
This avid monster truck watcher has now turned into an experienced driver with a couple of wheelies under his belt. The next hurdle is to take on a few race passes and a 60-second freestyle.
You looking like a professional out there, man. First time ever in my life.
Marcus's love of driving and enthusiasm for the sport is infectious as the crowd of onlookers cheers on this one-of-a-kind champion.
There's no words to even explain the experience I just went through with this truck right here, baby. Woo!
With an attitude like Marcus's, there are no hurdles that he won't overcome in his lifetime.
This has been Marcus Jam when Marcus Jackson went overboard.
They know they make honey and that they sting you, right? That's about it.
Beekeeper Luke Harvey sums up the two things most of us know about bees. His interest in bees began when one stung him. He started researching them and became fascinated.
Very few times have I been stung by a bee that's not my fault. They're there to protect the hive.
10 years after that first sting, Luke owns Riverview Road Apiary in Chillicothe and cares for nearly 5 million honeybees.
My first year, I think I only got stung 20 times, and then I stopped keeping track after that. I get stung probably 5 to 6 times a week. This time of year, it'll probably be 5-6 times a day. I'm really in them a lot this time of year. This is the peak of when we start harvesting honey. We're gonna take this off. We've got a couple of bees in here.
Yeah, just a few.
This is not so bad. This is
You can certainly hear them.
Yeah, you can hear them. So I'm gonna just remove some frames. This is honey. This is what honey looks like. The top of this frame is capped honey. And this is nectar that's being turned into honey down here.
Stinging aside, the fruits of his labor go far beyond the honey and other bee products he sells. He and other beekeepers are helping ensure we have enough pollinators as their numbers dwindle. A recently released University of Maryland and Auburn University study found 48% of U.S. colonies were lost from April last year to April of this year. That's the second highest death rate on record, behind the nearly 51% mortality rate from 2020 to 2021. So why are these numbers concerning? Well, the U.S. Department of Agriculture says 35% of the human diet comes from insect-pollinated plants, and honeybees are responsible for 80% of that pollination. So what would happen if most or all honeybees were killed off?
We'd starve pretty quickly. Pretty short period of time, we'd follow them. And that danger was tied to a mite called the varroa mite. That mite's still around. It's still a problem. It's also tied to the pesticides and herbicides and fungicides that we use in our food, which gets into our food supply as well. But that impacts the bees and the other pollinators around. We still have losses year to year. About 50% losses is what I would estimate locally, what we have for a hive. So it's not the bees themselves, right? A single bee doesn't die, a colony dies. So you lose basically half your colonies. Some of our commercial beekeepers do a lot better. Some of our small beekeepers don't do as well.
Scientists say starvation and climate change also add to the large die-offs. Because honeybees pollinate more than 100 of the crops we eat, it's in our best interest to ensure their survival. The National Wildlife Federation has tips on how to help the honeybee population. You can do it at your own home. Plant natives. Blooming native trees, shrubs, and wildflowers can collectively provide blossoms for bees. Plant garden beds. Bees love melons, cucumbers, berries, pumpkins, and fruit trees. Finally, go organic. There are natural ways to keep bugs and weeds out of your garden that won't kill bees or other pollinators. You can learn more about local beekeeping by checking out the Heart of Illinois Beekeepers Association. And if you're allergic to bees or you just don't like to be stung, here's some advice from someone who knows a thing or two about stings. Don't flail your arms.
If you're just calm and not afraid of them, just be slow and methodical in what you're going to do if they're around. If you're afraid of them, they largely won't bother you. They have jobs to do. Their job out in the field is to go get pollen and nectar and water, propolis, and come back. It's not to sting you.
Jason Pacey navigates the road to success with a gaming joystick. Several years ago, he quit his job managing a drugstore.
Honestly, I was bored.
He shook away the doldrums and found a new career by starting 8-Bit Arcade Bar. It features free play of a slew of old-school gaming cabinets, plus a massive selection of craft beers. It's been a winning combo, enough to prompt a recent move to a bigger location.
Honestly, just fun. I mean, just games and beer.
During his job hiatus in 2015, a pal told him, over a beer naturally, about a new trend in pubs, arcade bars featuring throwback gaming.
And she was telling me about, like these are popping up in bigger cities, and checked one out and just instantly fell in love with them.
He had been a gaming buff during his days at Peoria High School, though he let the pastime wane while at Illinois State University. But as a business opportunity, he got back into gaming as Peoria's only arcade bar. First, though, he had to get his hands on some old gaming cabinets, a process that has progressed to a word-of-mouth network.
Back in the day, I used to Craigslist and eBay and all that stuff. But then as time went on, met a guy and he moved me to another guy, and then that guy had something. So it just, spun out of control.
His first location at State and Water Streets was crammed with 35 gaming cabinets. The surroundings were cramped, and peak times could turn the place unpleasantly warm. So this spring, 8-Bit moved a few doors down on Water Street.
But here you can definitely move around and bigger bar, a lot more games, a lot more everything.
That includes 20 additional gaming cabinets, bringing the total to 55. Favorites depend on age. Customers who grew up in the 80s prefer Pac-Man and Asteroids, while 90 kids gravitate to NFL Blitz and Mortal Kombat.
Their childhood, you know, people love reminiscing back in the day.
But unlike back in the day, here you don't need to bring quarters. All video games are free. Perhaps that's why even 20-somethings who grew up in the explosion of home gaming systems also flock to 8-bit.
Even if you're not good at it, I mean, obviously, free is definitely a good benefit.
On Pacey's end, there's only one downside to the games: constant repairs. He and his 5 employees often figure out fixes by trial and error. For old parts, he can search online or cannibalize busted games stored in his garage.
There's always 2 or 3 or 4 that are down that we're hunting for parts.
Even amid all the throwbacks, there's a new throwback: Skee-Ball. These machines are the only non-free game offerings at 8-bit. But Pacey is thinking about starting a Skee-Ball league as the game continues a strong resurgence.
We're like the 3rd place in Peoria that has Skee-Ball right now, so I mean, it's definitely coming back.
Besides all the games, there's another lure at 8-bit: beer. In addition to vintage and popular suds, 8-bit specializes in brands unavailable elsewhere in Peoria. They're bought mostly from breweries and stores in and around Chicago.
We have the largest selection of craft beer in the area, by far.
So far, the new place has been a renewed success. More than ever, Pacey loves his job.
You know, I'm surrounded by the 2 things I like: video games and beer.
I love fresh strawberry season, and there's no better way to enjoy strawberries than piling them high on a giant shortcake and loads of fluffy whipped cream. To prepare the berries, I have 3 cups of strawberries that have been halved. I'm adding 3 tablespoons of sugar. Just sprinkle that over them nice and evenly. 1 teaspoon of orange flavored liqueur. Give it a gentle stir. And we'll set this aside for about 30 minutes so the strawberries get soft and juicy. To make your shortbread, first set your oven at 400 degrees. I'm sifting all the dry ingredients. I have 1½ cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a ½ teaspoon of salt, and don't forget the tablespoon of sugar. Now I'm going to work in 4 tablespoons of chilled cubed butter with a pastry cutter. You know it's perfect when the mixture resembles coarse breadcrumbs. Now I'm adding 3/4 cups of whole milk. Mix that together until you have a tacky dough. Plop the dough on your prepared baking sheet, take a basting brush, and spread 3 tablespoons of cream all over the top. Now we can't forget the 1 tablespoon of raw sugar. Sprinkle that evenly right over the top. Bake this until it's golden brown, about 25 minutes. You want this to be cool before slicing it, and I love using a serrated knife, and this is how I do it. With a hand mixer, I like to beat my 1 cup of cream for about 2 minutes until soft peaks form. Now I'm adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 2 teaspoons of orange flavored liqueur, and 3 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar. On low speed, whip this for about 1 minute until you get medium peaks. Let's put all this deliciousness together. I've placed the bottom half of the shortbread on a beautiful platter. Let's add 2 tablespoons of softened butter. Slather that all over the top. Time to spoon on the berries. Pile that fluffy whipped cream on top. I know what I'm having for dessert. Place the top half of the shortbread right over that whipped cream. Wow. I love to sprinkle a little bit of confectioner's sugar right over the top. Now I'm going to garnish it with some fresh mint sprigs. This dessert puts smiles on my family's faces. They love it every time I make it, and I hope you make it and enjoy it too.
That actually was a really fun episode. We got to do things like be around monster trucks and find out what goes on inside your body. And
Next time, you should be part of that.
ooh, well, not the monster truck. I don't think our insurance covers that.
Well, they're not going to let you be part of Body Worlds, at least.
Well, I don't, not yet.
Maybe sometime.
Plus, we had fun with iconic Peoria. We're going to do a lot more of those next time on.
You gotta see this.